Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our next guest has a passion for fashion, but with a twist. She's the host of the Vintage Voyageur, a one-of-a-kind TV series exploring vintage shops, showcasing personal style, and sharing a little fashion history.
There's a famous saying that goes, whoever said money can't buy happiness simply didn't know where to go shopping. Well, don't you worry, honey. That's where I come in.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I feel like a glamour queen.
Together with the help of store owners, we'll discover the elegant, fashion-forward, and the wild.
The punk rocker in me is just like, yeah!
As well as see firsthand how these small businesses are making big changes to the way we shop for clothing.
It's sustainable, it's ethical.
And it's never been easier to find your tribe than today.
Chin-chin! Yes, thank you.
We welcome to AM Northwest, the Vintage Voyageur, Allison Maldonado. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thank you so much.
Define vintage to me.
Well, vintage is actually anything that was made 20 years prior to the current date. Currently, I guess, I was actually on another news spot this past week, and I was messaged by a few people saying that they're trying to change that date to be something that was made 50 years prior.
Oh, wow.
Which, yeah, I guess, because 20 years, you think about it. I mean, I remember the 90s, but I think that's why we're seeing so much 90s fashion and culture and whatnot. I still go by that moniker, though. It's anything that was made
at least 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And thrift doesn't necessarily mean vintage, but vintage does mean thrift.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thrift shopping, I mean, it's like you can go to Goodwill, you can donate the things that you bought a couple years ago that, you know, you might not want anymore. But you can, of course, also donate, you know, pieces that your grandmother owned.
Right.
And so when you're shopping through Goodwill or whatnot, you can find, or any of those thrift stores, you can certainly find vintage, but you don't always find You should not find thrift when you're shopping true vintage items. Yes.
Okay. And then let me ask you, what makes a good vintage store? And you're here in Portland to showcase a couple vintage stores, right?
Yes, we're so excited to be filming part of our third season here in Portland, where the store
vintage is huge here.
Is huge. Yeah. I wish we actually had like 2 weeks to be here because there are so many amazing places. We shopped in Magpie Vintage yesterday for like 2.5 hours, and I was absolutely obsessed. And also House of Vintage. Oh my gosh, it's so great here. But we're actually filming an episode at a store called Dressing Vintage, which is a mother-daughter run business that's been around for over 20 years. Wow. They specialize in very, very high-end designer fashions from the 50s till about the 80s. So, I mean, we're talking Prada, Gucci, YSL. I'm going to go crazy. We're filming there later today. So it's really exciting to be here doing that. And
what do you look for in clothing besides, oh, this appeals to me? Like your outfit, you got that as well, right?
Yes, yeah. This I found in Oklahoma City at a place called Granny's Bazaar, which the name just cracks me up. But I personally look for quality. One thing that is great about fashions of the past is that, you know, the clothing back then was made to last, whereas now clothing is, you know, you talk about fast fashion and whatnot. After a few washes, it like disintegrates. It's terrible. Whereas, you know, you can go vintage shopping, you can find something that you would pay, you know, maybe the same amount. You might pay a little bit more depending on what it is, when it was made, the label or whatnot, but it is going to last you. It's an investment piece. And on top of it, it's usually one of a kind.
Right.
And so no one is going to have the same piece as you. Exactly.
I used to do vintage quite a bit. In fact, in my first wedding, that was a while ago, in my first wedding, I wore a vintage gown because it was just so incredible. Something that looked like Marilyn Monroe would wear. Satin, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. But as I've gotten older and larger, it's harder to find vintage clothes that fit.
Yes, yeah, it is. We luckily in this season, we have a few people on that do talk about the challenges of
finding larger sizes.
Of course, yeah. It is out there. It does take a little bit more digging, which is kind of, you know, it's of course frustrating.
Fun too.
It is fun, yes. But the great thing is now there's also a ton of different companies that also specialize in vintage reproductions, and they make a whole myriad of sizes.
But the idea about vintage shopping is that you're recycling.
Exactly, exactly, yes. Luckily, though, a lot of these vintage reproduction businesses that do have, you know, a whole array of sizes, they are using sustainable fabrics. Yes, they're reusing, which that's also something that's really great. So there are options to at least have the vintage look, and then if you really, really take the time and dig, there are the options out there.
You have a meetup right? That's coming up. So tell me about that.
Yes, we do. So tonight we're going to be at the Stormbreaker Brewery on North Beach Street, and I'm so excited. There's going to be vintage bloggers, fashion enthusiasts. Really, if you're watching this and you don't have anything to do tonight, feel free to come out and have a drink with us. So.
That'd be so. And by the way, could you be more energetic?
Oh,
could you try that for me, please? We're going to put all that information for everyone on our website so they can find out more about it. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Yay.